This is a seemingly random list of things that I avoid as a doctor because of all the terrible injuries that I have seen in my medical training. And a lot of these are kind of common everyday things that you wouldn't really think twice about, but I do, because the injuries I've seen from these are unfortunately way too common and they can be brutal and life-changing. So jumping right in to number one, if I am riding on the passenger side of a car, I never put my feet on the dashboard. Why? Because if you get into a car accident, which can happen even with the safest of drivers, that airbag is going to deploy in about a 20th of a second. You do not have time to put your feet on the ground. And so what's going to happen is with your feet up, your knees, your legs are going to slam into your face very forcefully. And that can cause significant facial trauma, traumatic brain injury. It can cause leg fractures, hip dislocations, a whole host of really, really bad things that you do not want. So as a general rule, I keep my feet on the ground. Number two are trampolines. You would not believe the magnitude of injuries that are seen in emergency rooms across the country each year because of trampoline injuries, which can be quite serious, including spinal cord injuries and again, traumatic brain injury. In fact, there are so many injuries associated with trampolines that the American Academy of Pediatrics has actually taken a stance. They recommend that no more than one person jumps on a trampoline at the same time. And of course, they recommend against doing the somersaults and flips and stuff like that, obviously. For me personally, I take it a step further. I just don't mess with trampolines. I don't think the benefit outweighs the risk of injury. So it's always been a no for me. Number three is especially important if you have small children, but even if not, I think it's a good general practice. I avoid using the front burner of my stovetop, my range, as much as possible. Because what can happen is if you have, say, like a pot of boiling water on the front burner, that's more likely to get accidentally pulled or pushed as you walk by. And then of course, if you have kids, if they're just curious and trying to grab something, they can easily pull that down and burn themselves if that hot water falls on them. There are actually hundreds of thousands of children that get treated for burn injuries in emergency rooms across the country each year. And 75% of serious burns in really young children, those under 5, happen due to hot liquids. So cooking your food or boiling your hot water on the back burner keeps it further away from children and reduces this risk. Number 4, if I don't have a helmet, I am not riding a bicycle. End of story, period. I've posted about this before on my other platforms and it's surprisingly controversial. Like people have said that I'm actually discouraging physical activity and exercise in people by saying you shouldn't ride a bike unless you have a helmet. But I'm always going to stand by what I say because here's the thing. If you have the wherewithal to procure a bicycle, I think you have the wherewithal to procure a helmet. And the basic bottom line that you just have to remember is that there are multiple high quality meta-analyses, not just single studies, but groups of studies that have been analyzed together that show that helmets are associated with a decreased risk of serious head injury. End of story, period. That's all you need to know. And number 5, again, this is gonna seem random, but I don't cut avocados if I'm in a hurry. Cutting an avocado is actually a surprisingly common way that people injure themselves, that they cut themselves while they're in the kitchen. And in fact, it's actually been studied between 1998 and 2017, so 2 decades. There have actually been more than 50,000 avocado-related knife injuries in the United States. The vast majority of those are hand injuries, and interestingly, about 80% are in women, which I can personally attest to. I remember being a resident in Manhattan, and so many times I would come into work and see these girls who came in with cuts on their hands saying that they were slicing an avocado, they were trying to be healthy, make a quick breakfast before work that was really nutritious, and they weren't careful enough and they cut themselves. So to me, that just says, I'm not gonna mess around with these guys. A much better way is actually to use a butter knife. You can even use a spoon and push the pit out instead of using a knife to get it out. But bottom line, if I only have a knife available, I am not going to even attempt this endeavor unless I have a lot of time to do it really carefully. Number 6, I would never, ever dive into a body of water unless I absolutely 1,000% knew how deep that water was. Why? Because if you dive into a shallow body of water that you didn't know was shallow, you can significantly injure your head and spinal cord. In fact, diving is the 4th most common cause of spinal cord injury in the United States. Actually, that's for men. It's the 5th most common cause in women, but still. And the other really unfortunate thing about these injuries is that they commonly cause paralysis, which is obviously something that people who suffer from this will be dealing for the rest of their lives. Number 7 would be that I do not pet dogs. Strangers' dogs that I don't know, and I would never ever let my children or any child that I'm around do so. Dog attacks are obviously brutal for adults, but especially for children. When I was on my pediatric rotation in medical school, in the pediatric ICU, it felt like there was always at least one kid there who had been attacked by a dog, and they were in critical condition. So I always say dogs need to have their personal space. Unless you really know that animal and you trust that animal, you need to be very cautious because things can go wrong in an instant. And lastly, I do not mix alcohol with public bikes or those little e-scooters. It is a recipe for disaster. Studies do show that a high share of these crashes involve alcohol. Plus, a lot of times when people are riding these e-scooters, they're not wearing a helmet. They are just risking it. But head injuries can happen. I have seen them. They can be brutal. And the risk for having a serious injury goes up significantly if you are intoxicated. Your reaction time is decreased. You're just more prone to injury. So this is just something that I would never do. It really makes me scared if I'm with a group of people and they want to ride a scooter or one of those bikes, the public bikes, like bike share things at night. It gives me anxiety. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Hope this helped somewhat. If you want more videos like these, let me know in the comments. I have so many more videos like these that I could make. I'm also thinking of making one about things that I won't do in terms of taking medication. So if that's of interest, let me know. And of course, follow along. You are more than welcome on my corner of the internet if you like this type of content. And I'll see you in the next video.